Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing a wild win streak that I had with arguably one of the Sunshine Cup's worst Pokemon, Dhelmise. Now, I initially put Dhelmise on my team because I wanted to lose some Elo to try and get into a better range to find Ultra League cubes. However, I immediately went on an 8-game win streak with this absolutely atrocious Mon. Dhelmise is so bad that as a Grass and Ghost type Pokemon, it has lose cons against Quagsire. This is not a Pokemon you should ever run, which makes the win streak that I'm about to show you all the more cool. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and in game number 1, we're off to a bit of an interesting start leading Macargo into Furret. If Furret has Brick Break, this is going to be a negative lead for Macargo. Macargo always going to get outpaced here. The question is, are they Trailblaze, are they Brick Break? And they do have Brick Break, which is bad news for me. Brick Break means that this Furret beats my entire team. I fire off the Rock Tomb, opponent is going to no-shield, calling the fate, and unfortunately they do get damage registration error there, meaning that my Incinerate does not land. This will set up a big farm down for Drampa. My opponent pivots out into Fearow, but Drampa up energy is an absolute nightmare in this cup. Drampa was absolutely the MVP of this team, and you're going to need MVPs when you're using a Pokemon that's as bad as Dhelmise. Drill Peck is going to be shielded up by Drampa. Drampa up energy and has the superior pacing as well, almost at back-to-back Swifts. Swift is shielded up by the Fearow. Drampa, I honestly may be able to farm down here. Dragon Breaths have been deleting this Pokemon. I'm going to look to farm. My opponent tries for a Swift catch that they do not get. Drampa now has so much energy. My opponent's going to be waiting down their timer. In the back is Shadow Quagsire, and I send in Dhelmise. Dhelmise is going to barely outpace getting to the Shadow Ball before they make it to the Stone Edge. Shadow Ball into Shadow Quag, takes the one-hit knockout. Back in comes Fearow, and look at that, Dhelmise wins charge attack priority over Fearow. Brutal Swing KOs Fearow, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, leading Macargo into Gligar. This is a very scary lead. Gligar is able to outpace Macargo and hit for double super effective damage with Dig. I try and make it to my Rock Tomb, but before I get there, they're already at the Dig. And even though Dig has been nerfed, so it's a pretty mediocre move now, this is still double super effective damage. So I shield up, fire off the Rock Tomb. They're going to no-shield. They save switch into Furret. And I don't have a clear response to a Furret safe swap, so I'm just going to stay in with Macargo and fire off the Rock Tomb on alignment. Rock Tomb is going to be no-shielded. They are very, very low on the Furret. Even if it is Brick Break, I can survive here. And unfortunately, they do have it. In comes Drampa. They will make a Brick Break here, but no! They were worried they wouldn't get there, so they only end up firing off a Swift. I was counting, so I know that a Swift is not going to be enough to knock me out. A Brick Break wouldn't knock me out either, but it would just get me far too low. In the back is Macargo, and this is a problem. Outrage does get shielded, and that is really not great. I continue to farm up. My opponent switches into Gligar. Switch clock's not available, so I'm forced to fire off the Swift to take the KO. Swift will knock out the Gligar. I farm up a few Dragon Breaths, send in Dhelmise, and my opponent knows their only win con in this game is to try and farm down. They need to incinerate down Dhelmise, but Dhelmise on 1 HP survives the incinerate. Oh my goodness, getting to a second Brutal Swing. We KO Macargo, and somehow this atrocious Pokemon is 2-0. We get a great lead in the next match, Macargo into Wigglytuff. My opponent safe switches into Furret, and I'm more than happy to stay in here and play this out. I want to apply a debuff as soon as possible, so even though I am conceding a free Sucker Punch by throwing on alignment, I feel that that is worth it. Here, I believe my opponent ends up lagging by a turn. They should be able to throw 2 there and not have a sneak, but my guess is their game started by a turn, so unfortunately it did give me a free Incinerate. They reveal their final Pokemon is Dunsparce. They do sneak a third roll-up because I did wait a turn just to make sure it wasn't a Marowak getting brought in. That's honestly what I was expecting as the third, but it's not. It's a Dunsparce, and that's really bad news for me. I can send in the Drampa to bait back out the Wigglytuff, but what is Dhelmise supposed to do into a triple normal team? Being a ghost type is a massive liability in this meta. I'm able to get them low with 2 Swifts, but speaking of Swift, I'm getting knocked out by a Swift unless I give them back a shield. So I will put up the shield, get the farm down with Macargo. I know they're 1 off the move on the Dunsparce, or they may have actually had it, so I will fire off the Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb applies a perma debuff, and now in comes Dhelmise. Dhelmise is so glassy that even though this is a non-stab Rock Slide that is debuffed, it still almost 2-shots me. This Pokemon, unfortunately, does not do a lot. I'm going to be shielding because I have to. I'm taking so much damage already, and I farm up to the back-to-back Brutal Swings. I'm going to try and go for as much Shadow Claw damage as I can, so as my opponent undertaps, I take the free Shadow Claw. I think Rock Slide will miss the knockout here. It's going to be close, but I can hold on and fire off the last second Brutal Swing. Unfortunately for me, Brutal Swing will not KO. It's all up to Macargo. Macargo survives the 2 rollouts, makes it to the Rock Tomb, and somehow, against all odds, Dhelmise team defeats Triple Normal and takes the win. We've got a very tough opponent in the next match, getting Macargo into Furo. Furo can hit for big damage onto this entire team. If Furo is able to successfully double bait with Drill Pecks, then they do get the Drill Run one sooner. So after they bait once, I am expecting them to bait twice. However, I still want to double shield, because if I ever get a shielding call wrong and they land the Drill Run, then that could be catastrophic. So even though it's probably a bait, I go for the double shield. They actually full send the Drill Run, and now they're 5 away. This should allow me to do 2 Incinerates, go for the catch onto Drampa, and save my Macargo. Drampa does take some pretty substantial damage from Drill Run, and in comes Miltank. Miltank farming up a ton of energy. I'm just going for the Outrage as soon as I get it, because most of the time Drampa does not hit very hard, but with Outrage, that damage is devastating. So Drampa completely erases most of Miltank's health bar, and now I send in Macargo to get a farm down. Macargo is going to be chipped with an Ice Beam from Miltank. That's not going to do a lot. I have to watch for a catch from my opponent in the back. They have Gastrodon, and unlike Quagsire, this should be a Mudboy that I can actually beat with Dhelmise. It's really going to help that I did get some nice chip damage with Overheat. Dhelmise now going to be hit with a Water Pulse. Again, Dhelmise is so glassy that a Water Pulse absolutely shreds me, and now my opponent's winning play is to wait a turn and catch. So I have to watch for them to throw the Mud Slap. They wait the turn, they do not get the catch, and we're able to secure that win. Hopping into the next match, leading Macargo into Turtonator, the Dream Lead. Turtonator gets crushed by Macargo. They safe switch into Furo, and I'm just going to look for farm. My opponent will fire off the Drill Run as soon as they get there. I put up the shield, but unfortunately it is going to be another Drill Peck bait. Calling one of these baits would probably win me the game on the spot, but I feel like if I ever no-shielded, that would be the one time they went for the Drill Run, so it's probably best to play it safe. My opponent is going to fire off the Drill Run, and now look at this. Send in Drampa. They try and make it to the Drill Peck, but they're not going to get there. Drampa the Grandpa with a massive farm down. My opponent sends in Oranguru, and I'm going for the jugular. I'm full sending Outrage. Even a Swift would do a lot of damage. Outrage does get shielded. My opponent respects it. That is unfortunate, but since they overfarm, that's going to let me get a Swift, and even a Swift will get them very low. So if that Outrage landed, that Outrage would have been devastating. Oranguru boosts up with the Trailblaze. In comes Macargo, and Macargo really has to hope that it can get a farm down. Oranguru is now at +1. Trailblaze lands. Macargo very low. Macargo gets that farm down, exiting with the back-to-back Rock Tombs. But this is the Dhelmise show. I have to bring in Dhelmise. So I send in Dhelmise after the Rock Tomb. Dhelmise makes it to the Brutal Swing and wins start stack priority over Turtonator. Dhelmise takes the knockout, and somehow, improbably, the win streak continues. We see a familiar lead in the next match, Macargo into Furret. So far, all the Furrets have been Brick Break, and that has definitely made things quite a bit more difficult. I'm always going to be no-shielded the first, as my opponent will reveal that they're not on Brick Break, instead they have Trailblaze. This is really, really good for Macargo, because this means I can actually outpace them and get to the second Rock Tomb. But I have a better idea. I bank the move, switch into Drampa, and snipe them down with fast moves. My opponent responds to the Drampa with Furo, but man, Furo is not a good answer. Furo just gets outpaced by the Drampa, and I'm holding on to my energy as I look to farm up just shy of the back-to-back Swifts. I fire off the Swift. Furo is going to no-shield, but they would get farmed down. They reveal their final Pokemon in the back is Shadow Toucannon. Toucannon going to try for a peck down, but look at Drampa go. Swift after Swift. Drampa just an absolute monster. Swift is going to land. Down goes Toucannon, and unfortunately my opponent resigned the match before I could send in Dhelmise. We get the same lead again in the next match, beating Macargo into Furret. Last time we got lucky, they didn't have Brick Break. Can we go 2-2? And we can. It's another Trailblazer. You know what? I'm going to see if Lightning can strike twice. I'm going to go for the exact same play. Throw an Incinerate and snipe them with Drampa. So I throw the Incinerate, switch into Drampa, and they get sniped down once again. My opponent sends in Oranguru. The last Oranguru did end up shielding the Outrage. I just want damage, so I will go for the Swift. I was just shy of the outrage. Oranguru ends up no shielding, but I'm pretty sure that I can survive a Brutal Swing here. Grandpa doesn't have great bulk, but this is a non-stab Brutal Swing. So I throw 2 Dragon Breaths and the move to ensure that I do not get KO'd before this damage lands. My opponent ends up no shielding, and in the back, they have Shadow Toucannon. This is a worst case scenario for Dhelmise, but I stored a Rock Tomb on Macargo. So now I apply a debuff and I send in Dhelmise. Dhelmise still getting shredded by these -1 pecks as they go for the drill peck. Dhelmise does have very fast pacing. This debuff is absolutely saving my life right now as I fire off the Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing is shielded up by the Toucannon. Dhelmise wins charge attack priority over Toucannon. Are you kidding me, Dhelmise? Brutal Swing lands devastating damage. I can't believe this anchor just won CMP over Toucannon. Toucannon was hoping for a Beak Blast debuff to ensure that they survived the Brutal Swing better, but they did not get it. We move to the next match, and it's a very familiar lead, leading Macargo into the Furret. Furret doesn't throw right away, so I will get to fire off the Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb is going to be shielded, and here is another one of these classic, do they bait, do they full send? I almost always double shield, and man, I am a professional at shielding drill pecks. If my opponent goes for a second bait, I could be in trouble, and they do. This means they're going to get to the drill run in 4 instead of 5, meaning I can't do the 2 incinerate and catch play that I did earlier. Instead, I go for the Rock Tomb, try for the snipe with Trampa, but I do not get it, and in comes Piloswine. I see him P-tie Swift to their Icicle Spear. Swift is going to do some sizable damage to the Piloswine, but unfortunately not nearly enough to secure a KO. Piloswine's Icicle Spear will take the knockout, and now I have to fully wait down my switch timer before sending in Macargo. I know that they do have a move banked. It's locked and loaded on the Furret. I need my switch clock to come up, and it's a half second from coming up. I can't get the catch. Drill Run takes the knockout. Dhelmise answered with Furret, and unfortunately, it's just hard counter city in the back. And unfortunately, our 8-game win streak comes to an end. These last 7 games of the 8-game win streak were on stream, and the first one was a game played before stream started. So 8 games in a row with Dhelmise is pretty wild, but unfortunately after that, man, I really started to feel why Dhelmise is one of the worst Pokemon in this cup. We get the same lead as last game, leading into the Furret. Again, I just really hope that they don't go for the double bait because it will make my life pretty tricky, and this time they actually don't. That's good news for me, but they're going to save switch into a Dragon-tailed Dunsparce. That is a very cool pick. I fire off the Rock Tomb. Now, arguably, what I should have done is potentially go in with Dhelmise, but instead I bring in the Drampa. They overfarm too much. I see him P-tie them with Swift, and just like that, they lose all of their energy. My opponent will probably look to bring back in the Furret. Furret is pretty low, but not low enough. I can't get the farm down. They make it to the Drill Peck, and Drill Peck will secure the KO. In comes Dhelmise in the back, is a Shadow Blaziken, and I'm in trouble. I need to catch a Blast Burn if I want a chance to win this game. Brutal Swing is going to be shielded. I farm up. I try for a Blast Burn catch, and I do not get it. And that is going to be all she wrote as Blaziken wins charge attack priority, KOs with the Aura Sphere, and I'm just getting Blast Burn here. My poor Dhelmise. Oh, it's a Brave Bird. I get KO'd. Man, Blaziken is an absolutely terrifying sweeper. Hopping to the final match, we get the Dream Lead Macargo into Talonflame. My opponent safe switches into Furret. Now we get to play the guessing game once again, but my opponent throws on alignment and I get an entire free Incinerate. They're on Trailblaze, but that alignment throw probably just ends the game on the spot. Talonflame is an interesting choice. Even though I'm a really big believer in Talonflame in the Open Great League, I actually think Talonflame is not the greatest in this game. I think that Toucannon and Furret just do what you would want a flying type to do substantially better than Talonflame. My opponent reveals Diggersby as their final Pokemon, and this game should hopefully be over. Second land and overheat for devastating damage, send in Drampa, and Drampa is about to be such a nuisance for my opponent. Because they still have that Talonflame in the back, and what's a Talonflame going to do against an absolutely loaded Drampa? Drampa fires off the Swift, it gets the KO, back in comes the Talonflame, and now it's time for Drampa to show its speed. Drampa is going to be spamming out Swifts left, right, and center. Switch clock is up. I send in Macargo, go for the Rock Tomb, and force my opponent to fire off some energy. They are going to go for a fly. Only single resisted will take the knockout. And you know what? Let's bring in our Dhelmise. Dhelmise getting absolutely torn to smithereens by these Incinerates. My opponent goes for the Flame Charge. They need this next Incinerate to KO, but it did not. And one final time, one of the Sunshine Cup's worst Pokemon, Dhelmise, is gonna get a win. Dhelmise makes Brutal Swing number 2, knocking Talonflame out of the sky, and that is a good game. And so ends the story of the 8-game Sunshine Cup win streak with Dhelmise. When I started this win streak, I was around 2870 elo, so I was against some pretty elite competition. We did go up against a former world champion in these battles, and the fact that Dhelmise kind of did the exact opposite of what it was supposed to do, at least to start the day, was quite funny. Now, after the 8-game win streak ended, unfortunately, I did run into some pretty miserable team comps, which does make sense when you have a Dhelmise on your team, as being a ghost type is basically the worst subtyping you could ever have in the Sunshine Cup, as in the Sunshine Cup, it's very viable to run double or even triple normal teams. I've seen like Wigglytuff double normal as well. So, unfortunately, being a grass ghost in a meta where Toucannon and Furret are absolute gods definitely puts you at a disadvantage, and to be the worst grass ghost as well, this puts you in a really bad spot. In this moment, I feel a little bit like my mission failed successfully. The goal with Dhelmise was to end up losing a bunch of games so that way I could get open Ultra League Qs. And in that regard, this was a spectacular failure as we ended up winning 8 in a row and ended up breaking back into the 2900s, where it's very unlikely that I'm ever going to get Ultra League games. However, winning 8 in a row with Dhelmise is probably never something that's been done at leaderboard elo, so in a way, it ended up working out pretty nicely. Dhelmise, unfortunately, I don't know what they could give it to give it any kind of relevancy. I feel like it already has a pretty good moveset, but the issue is it's a Dhelmise. It's like 140 attack, it's a grass ghost. This is the worst meta ever to be a grass ghost type. Even worse than Noctowl Trev Lantern meta, because now there's multiple Pokemon with the typing of Noctowl. There's Toucannon, I ran into a Trumbeak a few times. There's Furret on almost every team. There's Furret. You just cannot escape the normal types. So having any kind of a ghost fast move just puts you in such a bad spot. But nevertheless, somehow Dhelmise with a big carry from Grandpa was able to lock in and win 8 games in a row. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And an extra special thank you, as always, to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. Thank you guys very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.